Guys, it has been a busy last few days in the Sports Card Dad YouTube content creation world. I wanted to offer some updates, some announcements on some things that we have coming up and just kind of recap some of this stuff because it's just been a blitzkrieg on the YouTube algorithm, on the YouTube page. People probably think I'm nuts, but my wife was out of town all weekend and hey, I could have gotten into worse trouble than making a bunch of sports card content.
Yes, exactly.
So let's start with Friday evening. This is going back to the 14th. I had Shawn from Reserved Investments, great YouTube channel. You may have seen his stuff before. Really practical advice. He's been in the collectible space buying and selling for short-term stuff. He also does long-term, also gets into antiques and other styles of collectibles that others might not even be aware of. So practical advice from him. Some who would say that he's controversial or negative about certain things, but I take it more as practicality. So definitely check out Shawn at Reserved Investments, and I'll put links in the video description for all of the stuff I'm talking about today so you can make sure that you catch up on all the goodness. All right, Saturday the 15th, DPZ's interview with Jeremy Lee from Sports Cards Live dropped. DPZ came over with his collector series that we're going to do weekly, maybe a couple times a week, just depending on how things go, but really happy to have him on board. He is an excellent host, so definitely check out that talk with DPZ and Jeremy Lee. Link in the description below. Additionally, we're putting together a weekly live stream. DPZ, me, and Jeremy Lee going to do some hobby talk stuff. That will probably be Tuesday nights around 10 p.m. Eastern time with a time difference. They're West Coast, I'm East Coast, so just trying to work that out. The 25th next week, I believe, will be the first episode for that. We are still trying to work out some of the details there, but look for that one and another show on the docket. Speaking of Jeremy Lee, he just celebrated 3 years on YouTube doing his great live show, his weekly show, and we celebrated on his channel, Sports Cards Live. He invited me on. I was on the 11 to 11:30 p.m. block Eastern time with Jeff Wilson and some of the others. Really enjoyed saying congrats to Jeremy. I completely understand the fun grind of putting out videos for 3 consecutive years, really being very consistent with it. Jeremy has done that very well, and he's had a lot of success. As a lot of people will say, content creation, yes, it is a grind. It does take work, but it's an incredibly fun grind. It's an outlet for a lot of people, including myself. So great to see Jeremy on 3 years and excited to do more collaboration type stuff with him. Speaking of collaborations, we continue on with Dinged Corners. Myself and the Sports Card Therapist have been doing this show for the last few weeks. We've got kind of a weekly cadence that we've been going, and I think that we might continue on doing that. I really enjoy talking with Rob, getting to know him better. And we tackle just various hobby topics. He's got a great podcast as well as a YouTube channel, so definitely check out Sports Card Therapist. He's throwing in his insights. He is a dealer at shows. He's a collector. He speculates on stuff, but a lot of his stuff is vintage. So, I mean, he really focuses heavily on vintage sports cards. I know a lot of my audience also loves vintage. He does a Sunday night show on PWCC as well, kind of going over their weekly auction on the vintage side. An episode dropped yesterday morning. Again, I'll put the link in the video descriptions to check that out. Before I continue, big shout out to today's video sponsor, DC Sports 87. You want to sell your cards on eBay, but you don't want to deal with the hassle of shipping and packaging and doing all the stuff? You can just send it off to DC Sports 87. Their fees are very reasonable, pretty close to what you would pay just selling yourself on eBay, and they take care of all the work. You just ship all the cards to them. It's a very simple process. They've got a one-page submission form. Put your name and your email address on it. You send the stuff over to them. They put it on eBay and they handle it from there. They also update their website in real time as auctions end and there's payments made. Very seamless. It's easy. Check out DC Sports 87 today. Also excited to start a new series. Basically, I'll call it the Sports Card Pricing Drop Series. So dropping prices in various sports cards. I started with 2 videos about football cards and just going over some different things. And also included in the part 2, a 5-year look back. So I thought the timing would be really good to start this. I'm looking back 2 years in the data, so mid-April to now. And part of the reason why I did that is because if you go back to January, February, March of 2021, those are the all-time highs for most cards outside of the really ultra elite top 0.001% of collectibles. The vast majority of cards really hit their height that first quarter of 2021. And so this data is coming off the back of that. So it's not including the all-time highs. It's already come down some middle of April. And so you can kind of see where it's gone from there. So it's, if you're including the Mount Everest climb, it could be like, oh, this is down 90% if you're including the all-time high. I don't want to include the all-time high because it just makes it just a little bit wonky. And then also including the 5-year look back so you can see, hey, if you were buying cards in 2018, you're probably still up on certain cards and so forth. So I think it provides a very complete picture. We started with football cards. We're going to have baseball next. I'm also focused on 80s, 90s, and forward to the modern stuff because if you go back to 50s, 60s, 70s, there's a lot of variance in grades. And so pricing is all over the place. You could have a 6 that sells for X and another 6 that sells for Y. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it might just be that that one that sold up here had amazing centering. So including the vintage stuff I think it's kind of a waste of time. I don't think it really helps the audience as far as understanding price points. 80s, 90s forward is where we'll stay there. So if you do have certain cards that you would like to see in those videos, I'm happy to do it. Put it in the comment section below. And the purpose of those videos is not to say, haha, these things have gone down. It's more of, hey, if you're a collector and you've been sitting on the sidelines because prices have been mega high, I've been doing a lot of this research myself to try to figure out where certain card prices are, where I want to get in at certain price points. Every individual has to come up with what price point they're comfortable with for any particular card. As an example, I just recently, a couple days ago, bought an 86 Topps Traded Barry Bonds rookie card and a PSA 10. It was down to about 265, I think, is where my price landed. And at the all-time high, it was $800 or $900. It's come down pretty dramatically. Not a rare card in a PSA 10 at all. There's almost 5,000 copies of it. So some would say, hey, you could have waited and maybe got that card for $150 or $200. And you might be right, but 265 was a price point that I felt comfortable with. Even a couple of months ago, they were selling for quite a bit more than that. So anyway, that's the point of it. It's to help people that might have been sitting on the sidelines that want particular cards. Prices have come down. They're continuing to come down in certain areas. We're going to watch that. And so I think it's helpful for collectors to see, hey, is this at a price point where it makes sense to get in? All right, guys, thanks as always for all of your channel support. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.